those kids. Okay, it's 11/14 on November 28th, year of our Lord 2025, as Steve Bannon would say. But the day after Thanksgiving, glad everybody's here. We're all thankful for a lot of good things. I'm thankful for a lot of stuff this year. And we're thankful for the Christmas party coming up on Monday. Terry Wicker is here. So we got the Christmas party. That is the main thing I was told that we had to get out today. So we're going to get it knocked out. But we also have a silent auction on Monday. We did send out an email with some things, but this is probably the most unique item. There are some great items, but this one might be unique. Hold on, people are talking. Maybe they're not aware. This is my time. This is a big joke. Everybody's got real quiet because we were talking, and now I feel nervous. So, but this is a piece of carpet from one of the 3 balls, inauguration balls for Donald Trump and J.D. Vance on January 20th. It was either the Commander-in-Chief Ball, the Liberty Ball, or the Starlight Ball. Olga went to one of those. Which did you go to?
I went to the Liberty Ball.
Liberty Ball. So this may actually have Olga's footprint on it.
Well, okay, we're not going to go into details because I did not stand on the carpet.
But there was
apparently the carpet where Melania and Donald were then.
Yes.
Where we stood, there was no carpet.
I don't know if this was the actual red carpet. This could be the red carpet they stood on. But one of our members, who got this?
Mark Lawrence.
Mark Lawrence. We're going to give Mark a lot of grief. Mark apparently bought this online somewhere, and he's donating it for the auction. So
if you want a piece of carpet.
If you would like a piece of carpet for the inaugural
It's part of history.
It is a part of
the cats weren't anywhere near it. Oh.
Never mind.
Well, yeah, it's not like the blue dress. We don't have the blue dress. So, all right.
I knew somebody would go there. Yeah.
Yes, somebody would go. So, we got the Christmas party. It starts, if you go to greenvillegop.com/events, you can find it. We will have Donald Trump in attendance, so you can get a picture with the blow-up Trump. We can't do the big super 20-foot tall one that we have for the front yard because that would be too big for the facility. But it should be exciting. Starts at 6:30. We're going to put out parking information and all that kind of stuff. Oh, and Mary brought something. We're showing it.
We are?
We are going to show it. So this is one of the big gifts. We're working on one other thing. I think we'll
so this will be with the tokens.
This may be with the tokens. We may do two tokens like we did last year, which was a lot of fun. If you'll hand it to me, I'll open it. So this will be there as well.
How do you open it? Can it get
So
That's a good. That's a good.
It's a child stage. Oh, you pulled it apart. Okay. All right. This is item number 2. So you get a piece of carpet or one of these things.
What's that? It's a revolver.
Old antique revolver. It has
a Colt Frontier Scout.
Colt Frontier Scout. It does, I guess, shoots 22s. And it has the locks and all the safety stuff. And apparently, we couldn't even get into this. Yes. But it's a Colt Frontier Scout.
Long rifle 22.
Long rifle 22. How many does it hold? Is it 6 or is it more? Yeah. Okay. But we will know more about it as we describe it.
With that case,
Comes with a case and a pair of glasses, safety glasses. So that will be exciting. And it can lock up.
So before you shoot anybody, you say, "Excuse me, my safety glasses on."
Yep. No, that's for target practice.
But it's been tested, it's been cleaned, and it is a gift from our treasurer, Mary Wheeler.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you, Mary, for your donation. That was very kind of you. So, piece of carpet or a gun.
There are other 35 to 40 items, so it's not just.
Yes, there's 35 to 40 items. It should be, it's a good list of stuff.
It is.
So.
I've already started bidding.
Which you can see on the website. Because you put it out in the email.
We put it out in an email, but we should have a page that probably just has all of that because it'll be easy to share and easy to update and easy to talk about.
Oh, that could happen.
So Olga knows how to make that happen. So we're going to make that happen over the weekend. At least by Tuesday, we'll make it happen.
Tuesday's gonna be a day left. It's okay.
So that's what we do. So today we have a new guest. She's not really a new guest to us, but she's a new guest to Coffee and Politics. She's part of our Zone 7, so she showed up at just unannounced at one of our Zone 7 meetings, and she's been a gift, and she loves liking things on social media, which I kind of like. So if you'd like to introduce yourself, tell us your precinct, tell us a little bit about yourself and what your cause is or why you're involved in this movement.
Thanks, John. Hi, everyone. I've met some of you. I'm Megan O'Connor. I live in Taylor's. I'm from Jersey. I've been here for about 3 months. And
You're an escapee from Jersey.
I escaped. I saw the writing on the wall with Zoran Mondami. And my big issue, which is really hot right now, is illegal immigration, because if we don't have borders, we don't have a country. And then after that, it would be taxes. I'm a working gal. I sell 401ks for ADP. So I definitely love how South Carolina might go down to 0% income tax. So I'd be more than willing to help with that cause. And everyone's been so welcoming. And I love how the GOP censors local politicians who raise taxes, because Republicans should not be doing that. So thanks so much.
Wow, thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome. And what did you were associated with the women's group or the GOP up there?
Yeah.
Is that okay for you?
I was president of my town Republican club.
Yes.
And really tried to work on getting the right people on the school board, because that cannot raise or lower your taxes.
Yes, and that is one reason that we are interested in the school board race. As people say, "Oh, it's not partisan. Why does the GOP want to get involved in it?" And I'm like, because that can raise your taxes. You know, they said the same thing about the municipal races here. You know, just a couple weeks ago. Why does the party want to get involved in municipal races? Why is it important? Because they raise your taxes. You know, Greer has literally, I think, the number 4.
Well, it's higher than Greenville.
It's higher than the city of Greenville,
Right.
and it was, I think, the 4th highest in the state.
In the state.
So
Yes.
why is Greer, little country town of Greer, at least used to before BMW came around,
Yeah.
but why does it now have, because the highest, you know, the 4th highest taxes in the state for a municipality is because they just passed a $100 billion bond referendum to build 4 projects over there. Nice to have nice stuff. Somebody's got to pay for it,
You
right?
see what they're shoehorning it in there.
Yeah, it's
Not
always,
just location.
it's
You're
always
talking about the
something.
sports arena, yeah,
Yes.
It's horrible.
it is.
Yes. And it's a big sports arena issue. And apparently there's been another one that was built maybe 30 miles away that ended by the same people. And it did not come in as part of the analysis. And that went bankrupt or whatever, it's had been taken over and all that kind of stuff. But the people that do the financial analysis, people like me that would come in and sell that type of a thing to the city, not that I do financial analysis, not all things to cities, but they came in and did it. Apparently they left that off of the analysis. The one right down the street that
Has
failed.
an ROI for, plan at all.
Well, I mean, in the free market ought to be able to take care of that, help and facilitate and do some stuff. But I'm like, it's crazy that they're doing it. It's quite interesting. But the main proponent of that, or at least the guy that was in the campaign this past November 4th, was a guy named Lee Dumas, who refused to meet and talk with us because it was a nonpartisan race. I think the real reason he refused to meet and talk to us was he was a Rhino establishment guy, and he'd been on city council or county city council for, I think, 8 years, 16 years, 8 or 16. He had been there a while, but he refused to meet with us or meet with our candidate recruitment committee. So of course we met with the other guy, or they met with him, and then we met with him, and our board fully endorsed his opponent, and his opponent won. So, what was Chris?
That's awesome.
Who beat
Charles Lander.
Charles Lander. So Charles, new guy to the scene, knocked on a bunch of doors, and talked to a lot of people, and beat Lee Dumas. So I don't think Lee Dumas has not accepted my friend request on Facebook. So, I had not been on the one. The other one, which is, and Jerry's not here yet. I don't know if Jerry's coming today. He's going to come next Friday. Jerry Tussaud, who won the race, the runoff race that was last Tuesday. That was a big one. I actually had a statewide consultant tell me that they had worked on or knew of trying to break Simpsonville cabal, because apparently that's what they were called down there. We haven't been that involved, but apparently the leadership down there was called the Simpsonville cabal. They had not been able to break it, but apparently with getting Jerry in there, and then for 2 years ago, what Tim Pinkerton did, we can't take any credit for that. Tim did a great job on his own, but getting involved in the runoff with Chad O'Rear, there is now a 4-3 majority, conservative majority on Simpsonville City Council, which is a big deal, especially with the guys that live in Simpsonville proper or right outside. And Scott has made sure that his house will never be annexed into the city of Simpsonville, because he has sworn that if his house is annexed, he will run for office. So they will literally probably build 50 miles on the other side of his house. It will literally go around Scott's house, so he will never be annexed into the city. So it's funny how they do draw lines, and they do those things on purpose. And I've always noticed when they did the redistricting in my house district, we sit about in the middle of it, so there's nothing they can do to draw us out. But our former House rep, now state senator, Jason Elliott, did draw out Bob Jones when they did the redistricting. He was on the redistricting committee or whatnot, and it was quite interesting that they drew out the Bob Jones community in the university out of his district when they did the redistricting. So it's all kind of sneaky. I did have a house rep years and years ago. Not one of my favorite guys. He's not in office anymore and not even in town. But he said he was apparently on one of those committees or asked to opine about the drawing of the lines. And when he looked at it, he's like, yeah, this is not going to do. And they're all like, well, what's the problem? He's like, you drew me out of my district. Now, they had done it by accident, but he had it fixed. And, this is just, it's amazing. Now, one of the things that's the big topic out there is the fact that they want, nationally, is they want to redistrict so the Republicans will have a more majority in 2026. They talked about Texas, and then of course, the Democratic states come back and they've already been gerrymandering for themselves. But if you look at South Carolina, we are 6-1, 6 Republicans, 1 Democrat. Jim Clyburn is in one of the most gerrymandered, most ridiculous thing. I mean, it's way out into the what they call the corridor of shame, which is what's really bad, because Jim Clyburn is probably, and he was the House whip. I think at some point he was literally, I think, the 4th or 5th person in line for the presidency based on his when the Democrats held the House majority. His Nancy Pelosi would have been 3rd, like that, and then it was like down the line. But I think he was like 4th or 5th. And his district is called the corridor of shame, because they have literally, unless your last name is Clyburn, you have not benefited from your elected House rep being the 5th most powerful elected official on the national stage. But it was all in that corridor of shame of I-95. It literally came down into the neck of Charleston. And I think it even encompassed the Citadel. I know it encompassed the neighborhood right next to it, but all the way down, they had gerrymandered the heck out of it. And they're now talking about redrawing some of those districts, even in South Carolina, that would give us, because I think, an opportunity to win in that 6th congressional district. The maps that I've seen all have still relatively pretty strong Republican districts, but the Democratic district would be just like 1.2 or 1.9 or something like that. You can win on a 1.9 favorable for the Democrats. You can't win when it's 20 points favorable to the Democrats, which is becoming our apparent problem in the city of Greenville that we'll deal with next, next 2 years. Need to get started much sooner than later. But But think about this: if you are a current congressman, if you're William Timmons, and I'm not saying William's got an opinion one way or the other, because I think it's a pretty strong Republican seat up here, no matter how you draw it. Maybe he doesn't want a weaker district. Maybe the first congressional district doesn't want a weaker Republican district. Because what they did when they redistrict, with the last census, they actually made the first congressional district stronger Republican because Jim Ryder wanted his to be stronger Democrat, and he didn't care. He didn't care about the fact that they were having an opportunity, and as the state suffered through for I don't know if it's just a 2 or a 4-year time period, where we had 5 Republicans and 2 Democrats, because Charleston had elected a Democrat congressman. So Jim Clyburn was to take care of himself, said, "Oh, you can have the first congressional district, make it more strong Republican as long as you protect me." And this is common knowledge. This is pretty, we shake our heads at it and you think it's crazy. But what if with redrawing, if they redraw in South Carolina, some of these congressmen don't want their districts redrawn. Everybody is pretty self-serving in that respect, and we got to deal with it. So as opposed to what we try to do, we try to be very team-oriented, team players. If we're not all working together, we're gonna, we're not going to accomplish what I think our goals are. And that's and I'll just make this comment. I've seen it out there. There's a lot of bashing going on, certainly from the Trump world, or from Donald Trump himself, to Thomas Massey and Marjorie Taylor Greene, Rand Paul, those things. We have a lot of our people like those folks, which I get. But I also think I give Trump a lot more grace in respect of what he is trying to accomplish. And what I think he's frustrated with is those 3 vote against what he's trying to accomplish. And it is not easy. Imagine how difficult. We have 151 precincts in Greenville. Imagine if you've got 50 states, 435 reps, and 100 senators, and all kinds of cabinets, and trillions of dollars of budgets, and tens of thousands of people, and you're trying to get them to move forward to get rid of the Department of Education, or to get rid of, or to pass school choice, as they did with the Big Beautiful Bill, or to no tax on tips, all the campaign promises that he made. And we talked about it a little bit with the Epstein files. I don't think Trump is trying to hide anything of the Epstein stuff. I think if there was anything there against him, he would have shown it in the past, or the Democrats would have shown it in the past, even if they're trying to protect themselves. But I think his frustration, certainly at the time when he was more frustrated about it, I think he signed off on and has now pushed. Go ahead and pass the bill. Let's get everything out. And I think it's actually all supposed to come out by December 19th, if that's the date. It was 30 days since they passed whenever they passed that legislation in the House and the Senate, and the president signed it. But why are we worrying about that when we're trying to save the whole planet in reality, with what he's trying to do to realign things and fight the deep state and fight all that kind of stuff. So that's why I think we saw some frustration with him. I give him a lot of grace, because I think the magnitude of what he's trying to accomplish is so large. I don't give as much grace to people local or state. I'm sorry, if you're governor of the state of South Carolina, you need to stand up and talk. It's a big complex to run as the governor, but you've got a bully pulpit, and you need to be up there saying some stuff and getting it done. And I'm not going to give you a lot of grace when you start siding with rhinos and siding with the establishment and the deep state and all that kind of stuff. But I'll give Trump a little bit more, because that's just what he's trying to do in the United States. God only knows, the stuff they're trying to do on the global platform is even bigger. So, and he's only got a limited amount of time, and it's the Republicans up there fighting. So I can imagine being upset with Rand Paul and Thomas Massey and Marjorie Taylor Greene. And I don't really know exactly what he's upset about, Marjorie Taylor Greene, because I don't pay attention to that stuff, because there's a lot more drama and interesting things right here locally. So To that, I will also say that we got David Pascoe coming on at 11:45. Um, you know, he is running for Attorney General, so we got 12 minutes till we add him. I'm thinking the Hobart thing. We'll talk about that in 2 seconds. But Pascoe is, and I'll tell everybody. I mean, I don't know if you've gotten the hit piece text messages. There was one that came out this week. Of course, I screenshot and sent it to it. Just, you never really know. I got, sometimes people send me stuff and they see stuff about me, but then sometimes they, everybody thinks somebody else is sending it to me and I don't hear about it. And I'm like, yeah, I don't hear about it for a week later. So I sent it to him. So he wanted to respond to that. And he asked when he could come on to us. I said, oh, you come on Friday if you'd like to come on and that. So, but I think he did a text message response and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, one of the things we teach, especially with that text message that did come out, when we text things out, when we send emails, when I talk bad about other people, I do it myself personally. We put our name to it. We censure people. I don't go after and just, sneakily talk about, different politicians. We go out and say, you are the one, Pamela Beth, or you, the people that raised our taxes, the 3 county council members that are still left because, the other ones are now gone, or, you, Diane Mitchell, who participated in the reorg. We go out and say it, out there openly because, we all know the game. The game is to manipulate the drive-by voters. The votes that are 35,000 cars that drive by our office every day. They're trying to manipulate those folks that have a life that don't get into all the details, and you just hear, oh, David Pascoe was a Democrat who supported Joe Biden, blah 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 blah. So we need to elect one of the other guys. Well, David Pascoe is the one guy that I know that will prosecute these people, as opposed to do what David Stumbo did. One of his 2 opponents. Let a guy off for embezzling $100,000 from the Lexington County GOP, the former chairman of the Lexington County GOP, and from the what was the other group? The Rotary Club. The Rotary Club. If I embezzled $100,000 from you guys in the Rotary Club, where do you think I would be?
Jail.
I'd be in jail. I would be in jail and probably shipped somewhere because they want to really silence what we're talking about.
You got to get to us first.
Well,
We'll take you down for that.
oh yeah, I'd be dead. Yes, I would be shipped first. Let me get this right. I'd be shipped first and then still prosecuted after that. But they let this guy off. Why did they let this guy off? Because he's part of the establishment down there. He was the former chair, long-term chair of the Lexington County Party. I think maybe even at the time he could have been the chair of their 3rd or whatever their 2nd congressional district is down there. His dad's involved with all the stuff. I mean, but you know what? He's now sneaking his way back into politics. The same guy that embezzled from the group. And they're letting him back in. I think his dad's even on the audit committee and all this stuff. I'm like, it doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, how do you get away with this?
Do they forget?
They don't forget. No, they get covered up because he's part of the cabal that will say and do anything. If I did anything wrong, the first person who's going to cut my throat is you as our treasurer. And I know that.
Currency-induced amnesia.
Yeah.
Yes, currency-induced amnesia. I like that. But I mean, but who gets accused of being a bobblehead? You. Everybody gets accused of being a Jeff Davis bobblehead. Yeah. But that's literally what they're doing, and it's like this projection thing, and it's kind of
accuse others of what they're doing.
Yes, that's what accuse others of what you're doing, and there's a lot of people that just get confused by it. So, I mean, and that's just, they don't really know. And they're like, oh, well, of course, if the GOP accepts this person, there must be something okay. Mm-hmm. I mean, I answer questions about, things about myself constantly, and I don't care because I've answered them all 1,000 times. I will tell you, Mary Wheeler, and thank you for being here. It's a special Thanksgiving gift. But Mary, years ago, when we first got involved in this, Mary was heard the rumors, the false rumors, the defamatory rumors. The first person I ever heard it was from that it came out of their mouth was from the now current Secretary of Education, Superintendent of Education, Ellen Weaver, who I'm not a fan of. But Ellen Weaver was telling people that I was disbarred, falsely telling them I was disbarred from the practice of law in the state of Georgia. Don't know where she got it from. Don't know why, but she was telling people that. That is defamation per se. It's not true. You can go look it up on there. There's never been any complaints, or private censure or public censure or anything like that. But she was telling people that. Mary, to her credit, and I will encourage everybody to do this, she came up to me and pulled me to the side and said, "Hey, I got to ask you this question." And she asked me the question. If it was true. I said, absolutely not. I said, let me show you on my phone, and I'm going to go to georgiabar.org. And she goes, no. Let me look it up on my phone. And she didn't even trust me to show it on her phone, on my phone, which is smart.
Yeah.
The tech guys say it's smart because they would know how to create a fake website. That was not as smart. It was. But she checked it on her own phone. I'm like, type in gabar.org. Go to member search, put in, you have to put in R. Jefferson or whatever. But, my full name's Ronald Jefferson Davis Jr. But in the old days, they'd let you use the initial. I don't know if they let me use the initial anymore. But she looked it up on there. And there's nothing there. And I'm like, and she got, to her credit, she asked number one, and to her credit, or my credit, she got pissed off about it. Yes, but she got pissed off about it.
Somebody's spreading rumors. I think that's the only way to qualify them is to ask the person that they are about themselves personally. Otherwise, it's sometimes the rumors, they're not about reality, they're about painting you with that brush.
But people have an agenda to that.
Yeah,
there's an agenda.
absolutely.
Nobody wants, and I love the former chair up in Rock Hill, and I wrote him a message today. Larry Barnett, he wrote a Facebook post talking about how we need to elect people with backbone that will go to Columbia. And I think he's talking, real elected people, and I think he's talking about, folks like us in the party that have backbone that are not going to break or bend. Not breaking and bending does not mean, we're doing incremental things to get better and more conservative legislation and coming up with agreement. Bending is when you literally, I say I used to support this, now I'm doing something completely different. Like the example that I like to give, and I'm not going to pick on the particular person right now, but a person who got elected to be a Freedom Caucus, limited government, liberty, free market, all that kind of stuff. They get elected to do that, and literally one of their first votes is about 100% school choice, and they now support it. Because that's different. Where is that different? If we had no other solution, sure. But when there is the granddaddy of school choice is a solution that's free market, constitutional, and limited government, that's what you pick. But, when Jim DeMint and folks like Ellen Weaver are the ones in the dark money supporting the Freedom Caucus, and what they want is 100% government run school choice because that is what lines their pockets, then apparently they changed their mind. And I've had that conversation with those folks. I don't get the opportunity to ask Bruce Bannister or Merle Smith, hey guys, I know y'all are super rhino establishment and in leadership. Would you work with us as the grassroots if we can get more conservative legislation and more conservative people passed and all that? I don't get to ask them those questions because they don't even take the call. But some of the Freedom Caucus folks will take that call from me. I ask them, and their answer is no. Their answer is a shockingly no, that they would rather have the door knockers that come from Young Americans for Liberty that they pay, and it's worth $40,000 plus, 40 to 50 grand, that will come in their district, knock on doors for them and get them elected because they don't trust the grassroots are going to go out and do that. Or we're not going to provide the value of that. Or we're not going to send mailers that cost tens of thousands of dollars into their district to sit there and defend them and do all that kind of stuff. So we'll talk about that a little bit more. We got David Pascoe coming on. Is he in the?
Oh yeah,
He's there. Is he wearing a jacket? Does he look good? You can probably hear me. I thought you guys could see you laughing. So, and then we're going to talk afterwards about the Hobart Lewis thing, because I think that was I think it's critical for us. We're big on local issues and the ICE issue, and Hobart has started a podcast, which I love the fact that he's doing that. There's been two that have come out, but now people will be able to hold him accountable to what he says.
How did we share this?
Yeah.
I think you had the.
Oh, I had it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. So Olga's going to work on that. We got a minute or two. I will qualify that, and we should probably say it all. I mean, I'll say it before now, so it won't be part of the clip with David. David Pascoe and I did go to college together. We both were class of '89 at the Citadel, and we were both at USC Law School at the same time. I think he probably went straight through. I took a year off to work, and then I started a year in the MBA school. But I think we actually may have graduated at the same time or a little bit short of that. I actually graduated early from law school. So even though Ellen Weaver thinks I was disbarred and tells everybody that, I actually graduated early from law school. So. Okay. And you need the remote. I'll let Olga do that. And let us get Mr. Pascoe on.
Let's test the volume.
And we're going to test the volume. So David, if you can give us 2 seconds, because I think
Okay.
we've got to cut off the volume for here for the mics. All right.
Can you hear me?
Take that off. Okay.
Yeah, I lost
David, can you hear us? Can you hear us?
I lost the volume.
I don't think we can't hear
You
him.
have to unmute yourself.
I've got to.
Your computer.
I lost
Computer's
you. Let
muted.
me see.
David, can you hear us now?
I can't hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I can hear you. So that's
Okay, you
step
can hear me,
one.
but I can't hear you.
Okay. So
Let's see.
It's not here.
how about this?
Probably have this turned on. Oh, this is still on. Try now.
You turned it off. Okay. Can you hear me now? Nope.
I can't hear you.
Okay.
I lost you a few seconds ago. It says your volume is off. It says your mic is
Okay. Now-
there.
Okay. I turned it
and I
off.
still can't hear you. Let me see.
I think, and that may just be the mic on my computer. Have this.
Maybe if I take my beats off. What is that? What about now? No, I still can't hear you. I've got no volume. I had you and then I lost you.
How about that? How about that?
Oh, now I got you.
Now we're all
Right,
good.
I
I
got
unmuted
you.
this thing.
And I'll take these off.
Feedback.
Now I got you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Turn this off. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Yeah. I can hear you. I wore a jacket for you.
You look nice. Yeah.
Now don't ask me to stand up.
All right.
Test this.
Test it. We're testing the speaker here. Sorry to do this to you, but
No.
we'll cut all this out earlier.
That's okay.
Okay. All right. So we're not going to worry about the speaker here. You can hear me. I can hear
Yep.
you. All right. Everybody else, we got turned to maximum. Okay. Olga's pressing buttons on my computer. Okay. All right. Now, welcome. We got David Pascoe. He is a candidate for the South Carolina Attorney General. We got you on the big screen so folks can hear, and I'm talking loud, and we got the computer turned up as maximum volume as we can get here in the room. But David, as I told folks earlier, you and I graduated from the Citadel, same class, 89.
Mhm.
We were both in law school at the same time, not in the same class or small group or any of those types of things. But your career went one direction. My career went, your career went being a prosecutor, and I'd love to give us a little bit of background there. My career went to trying to make money in Atlanta, and we had a real fun ride of it. You've been very successful. We had a lot of fun stuff that we did before I came back to first Charleston, and then we moved up here to Greenville, where I went to middle school and high school. But tell us a little bit about yourself and your background, and we'll take it from there.
Well, I grew up in Richmond, Virginia, and in 1985, just like you, I showed up on that August hot day at the Citadel.
It was hot.
Very hot, and I can still remember the odor of the paper plant as you're coming into Charleston.
Yeah.
You know, for 25 years, it still made me nauseous every time I would drive into Charleston. It smelled like I did that August day.
For me, the smell of the paper plant is the smell of I'm returning home. So I mean, yeah, you Richmond guys are a little fancier than we were.
Yeah, it was. But I remember that. So I got to the Citadel in 1985, and I've stayed here for 40 years now. I decided not to leave South Carolina. I just love it here. All I ever wanted to do was be a prosecutor. So when I went to the Citadel, I busted my butt, worked as hard as I could, graduated ahead of you, because I think I was top 5 or top 6. I was number 1 in political science. And only, again, one reason, I was paranoid that I would not get into law school. So I needed good grades, and I did it. And I'll tell you what I did, because all I wanted to do is be a prosecutor. Right after graduation, Jeff, the United States Attorney at the time was Citadel graduate Bart Daniel. Yeah, I just called the guy up at home one night after dinner, like around 7:30. I said, I was nervous. I think I was shaking when I talked to him. I said, look, Mr. Daniel, all I want to do is be a prosecutor. Is there any way you can get me a job at the United States Attorney's Office? Long story short, he hired me my first semester in law school, and I worked at the U.S. Attorney's Office all 3 years of law school. And I was there during Lost Trust, which was the first big public corruption probe, and that had a tremendous impact on me, getting a front seat to watching all those prosecutions and working with those great prosecutors like Bart Daniel and Sherry Lydon and others. And then after graduating law school, you went to make money. I went to the Fifth Circuit Solicitor's Office to make $30,800 a year. That was
graduated ahead of me, but I made more money than you.
Exactly.
That's the good thing. And let me clarify for everybody that'll watch this later, and for everybody here, you did not need to graduate at number 5 in our class at the Citadel, because there was a gentleman that was in charge of admissions at the University of South Carolina Law School by the name of Colonel Berry. And he let a lot of us, like me, in that probably should not have been allowed into law school. So you were.
If I had known that, I would have had a lot more fun at the Citadel like you did, and I would have walked some tours. All right?
Don't give all the secrets away, what some of us did.
I didn't know that. But you went to Atlanta. I went and made $30,000 a year, and I've been living the dream now for almost 33 years as a state prosecutor. I tried hundreds of cases successfully in the 12 years I was an assistant prosecutor in Columbia. I was on court TV. I had a blast. And then in 2004, I decided to run for solicitor of the First Circuit, which is Orangeburg, Calhoun, and Dorchester counties. I got elected, and I've been the First Circuit solicitor since January 2005, so almost 21 years now. And I've loved it.
Yeah, and quite frankly, I mean, even though I went to law school, it was difficult in those days to get into law schools, because it was literally the height of LA law or whatever that
Yeah.
show. and there was I think a dip in the market or in the economy. So everybody that couldn't get a job or liked LA law on TV were all applying to law school, and it was us that I had to go in there. And just like you called up Bart Daniel, I was in there begging Colonel Berry to let me in, and he's like, well, why don't you go start in the MBA school for a year and then we'll see how you do. And I was able to get my grades up, which it was a very different environment back in those days with the Citadel. I mean, I think nowadays you go to pass and review or the parades, and I think 75% of them wear gold stars. And back in our day, it's called grade inflation. Everybody's getting a dean's list or a 3.7 nowadays.
I don't exaggerate when I tell people this. You can vouch for this. When we were at the Citadel, the average grade point average for freshmen was in the ones.
Yes,
it was like around 1.7, 1.8 at best.
It was, and it was hard to recuperate for a lot of those kids. When you start off at a 1.7, average GPA your first semester freshman year, because apparently, I literally turned down going to Georgia Tech as an early accepted into their computer science engineering, whatever degree that they were coming around before the internet started. My joke is I probably would have been a tech billionaire and lost it all, but like most of them did. But I went to the Citadel because I wanted to learn, and I thought they were going to make us sit down and study and all that. You obviously did it. If you taught how you finished, but a lot of us were too scared to death because, if my shoes weren't shined, some guy 1 year older than me was going to yell at me and take me into a sweat party or something like that. And we fell for that. But so the Citadel in law school, and then, all this prosecution, I will tell you, I find it very interesting, having been a guy that had been in the legal practice, more on a corporate and transactional side. What you guys do in the courtroom, I think is very exciting. And what you guys have done in prosecution has been very exciting. You saw obviously Operation Lost Trust, but your big claim to fame is the Quinn investigation, the Quinn Dome and all that. Can you tell us a little bit about that, how you got into that, and what that is, I think has really led you to wanting to run for attorney general or
absolutely has. Yeah. Well, what got me in it was the attorney general's office was probably about to be conflicted off of the Bobby Harrell prosecution for a number of reasons.
And for everybody that doesn't know, Bobby Harrell was the Speaker of the South Carolina House of Representatives. So
hands down the most powerful person in politics 10 years ago. And up at the State House. And the Attorney General's office was having issues trying to prosecute that case. And the Attorney General went to a number of solicitors trying to get them to help, and they turned him down. Yes. One of them, I don't want to mention any names, running against me right now, turned it down, and they called it a hornet's nest. And they're right, it was a hornet's nest. I got the stings to prove it.
Well, it's a hornet's nest and a career ender. If you go and prosecute the most powerful political person in the state, it's a career ender for you. I mean, I won't interrupt, but we all know that especially in this state. So,
Bart Daniel called me during the corruption probe. There's a state article that came out in a Sunday paper. It said Pascoe's probe surpasses Lost Trust. So I'm really proud of the things that we did in that probe. He called me to tell me how proud he was of me. And more importantly, I'll never forget, he told me, David, going after legislators is not for the faint of heart. And he started telling me about the sacrifices he had to make just because when he was United States attorney, when he went after legislators, he paid the price for it. And he said, you're going to pay the price for it too, but just keep doing the right thing. It was that pat on the back I needed. So, SLED chief, interestingly, a little inside baseball, Chief Keel, who's been a good friend for over 20 years, he was telling the Attorney General's office from day one to get Pascoe to prosecute the case. Obviously, the AG's office, they didn't want me, so they tried to get other people, turned him down, finally came to me. I took the Bobby Harrell case, and I told them after 2 days of looking at it, I said, I'm going to have this guy out of office in the next month. And I did it. They didn't laugh at me, but they thought I was crazy for saying that. But when we got him removed, here was the key to what opened up the corruption probe. In the SLED file, it didn't just have evidence against Bobby Harrell for using his position to make money up at the State House. It had a couple of pages talking about other legislators, friends of the Attorney General's office, the Quindom, possibly committing crimes. And I didn't have jurisdiction over that when they asked me to do Bobby Harrell. But what I did do, because the SLED agent in charge, who I think is now a captain, great guy, he was bugging me. Solicitor, what are you going to do about this, the Quins? What are you going to do? What are you going to? I said, look, this is all I can do. I will send the Attorney General an email, and I'll CC a bunch of people, including the feds and Chief Keel, my opinion and SLED's opinion that other crimes may have been committed as well. I did that. Long story short, nothing happened with those investigations for months, and SLED kept writing the Attorney General's office. When are you going to do something? When are you going to do something? And then they admitted this to the grand jury. I think it was people, Alan Wilson himself, and even Adam Piper and others. They sort of mistakenly gave the case back to me. And then I took over. It was like July of 2015. I got a letter saying, you need to take over the entire probe. And I was like, man, I got too much going on in my own office. But I took it, and long story short, I followed the money, and we convicted and removed from office 2 former majority leaders. We convicted and removed from office the president pro tem of the Senate, John Corson, and we sent to prison the former chair of the Judiciary, Jim Harrison, sent him to prison. We issued a grand jury report that outlines the corruption that's still going on up in Columbia, South Carolina today, with dark money and everything else. And you mentioned that probe is a main reason why I'm running for Attorney General. You're absolutely right. I'm going to tell you why. I wanted to go further than those convictions. I wanted to go much, much further. And if people would go and read the grand jury report at scsolicitor1.org, you'll see what I'm talking about with all the corruption that goes on up there. But the Supreme Court stopped me. They said, Pascoe, you don't have jurisdiction to go further. The probe is basically over. You're done. Go home. I did go home. Now I'm running for Attorney General to go back to Columbia and finish the job that I started.
Yeah, and that state Supreme Court that told you didn't have the jurisdiction, they were appointed by the legislators, right?
Yes.
We all know about that. I reflect back in the summer of 2015 and in that time frame. To me, it was exciting because I knew how much bad things were going on down at the State House, and I'm like, this is something that can clear out, a lot of the stuff that just needs to be removed, and perhaps we can get a good shot. And it was all obviously very disappointing. You went a good way and got a lot of folks that, even some folks we weren't aware of that popped up. Senator Corson is one of them, but the numbers were there, the money was there, and it was quite frankly, embarrassing. And you mentioned Jim Harrison. He was another guy who was a Citadel graduate, and he fought it to the end. And I think he even refused to cut a deal and or whatnot. I hate to say a deal, but whatever with you on that. Took it to trial and is actually serving serve time. I don't know how much.
Yeah, serve time. Yeah.
So, but I mean that was. But I think that same state Supreme Court also told you that you didn't have the jurisdiction because you were not Attorney General.
That's right.
So the one way to get jurisdiction is to become the Attorney General. So it's very similar to what we have done, in the sense of we've gotten pushback from politicians on our fight and what we do. So I'm like, okay, so we will get involved more in politics, and it's probably their worst nightmare. So you, I think, are considered from everybody in our world and what we talk about. We see it on the national stage, the folks that are fighting corruption, and we see it as nothing moving fast enough. But I think a lot from our world on the conservative Republican side are excited about you as someone who will get in there and can literally get something done day one. right? I mean, it's not like you got to get in there, get involved and pass legislation, yada, yada, or like the governor, get in there, wait for the House and Senate to pass legislation to come across your desk. This is something you can get done, as you said, even with Representative or former Speaker Bobby Harrell, and get him out of office within a month. So that I will tell you, and I highly encourage you once you hopefully do get elected, to be able to satisfy the people and push that, because we all know, I think we all, and I sent you one thing that we're dealing with up here in Greenville. We all know and can see the corruption that goes on. To me, it's like 1 + 1 = 2. It's everywhere. We have even some new guests here that are shaking their head. I mean, it's pretty obvious to all of us. Greenville, we even suffered through one of the candidates for a state Senate seat, would have been actually my state Senate seat, our personal state Senate seat. We got him on video walking up and stealing political mail from his opponent out of somebody's mailbox and sticking it in his pocket on a ring cam. And you're like, number one, how stupid are you not to even notice or know what a ring cam is and you're being recorded? And number two, how stupid are you to number A, subsection A, steal political mail or steal mail, and then number two, or B, steal political mail. And we have gotten nowhere. I know it's a federal crime and all that kind of, we've got nowhere sending it to the U.S. Attorney's Office here in the state of South Carolina under the old U.S. Attorney, and then I've even sent it to the new U.S. Attorney, trying to get some attention to it. But what my issue is, if the regular people see a guy like this that is getting away with it, I think politicians, people in the party, should be held to a higher standard. It's not like your next door neighbor stole your mail, but if somebody is stealing mail, and they're running for elected office, one of the highest positions in the state as a state senator, and the only thing we can always think about is somebody's protecting them. So
have you sent it to the postal inspector yet?
We have, and we actually got little to no attention from those guys. And I understand why we don't get much attention from them. I mean, they look at it as just one of a thousand things, but I mean, the U.S. Attorney ought to think this is important. And, we will pursue it, but that's what I think the citizens, that's why I think your campaign has had so much appeal, is you're talking about stuff that we all know and realize is going on, and none of the other people are talking about it. Or if they talk about it, everybody knows it's a campaign promise that is never going to be fulfilled.
And the reason I'm not going to comment on that case is because when I'm your next attorney general, I'm going to take things like that very, very seriously. And I would remind everyone that there is no statute of limitations on any crimes in South Carolina, except for, of course, illegal lobbying, which I'm pushing the legislature to do something about that. But, and I'm not going to comment on that person's case because I saw the video too. But if you have someone who's either a candidate or maybe a supporter of a candidate going through somebody's mailboxes, pulling their mail out, campaign mail, if you don't hold them accountable, either at the federal or state level, then what stops the next candidate from doing the exact same thing?
Right. And that's been always my belief, is all of the crime or waste, fraud, and abuse that goes on in D.C., which, we don't like to focus on because there's enough down here locally. But if they're doing it in D.C., the next thing a county council member is going to be doing it, because nobody gets punished for this stuff, and that's the frustration. And I think that's been the big appeal, and certainly our appeal to you and your campaign is we think you're going to do it. You really want to do it. You're happy to do it against Republicans and Democrats, and that's really what we just need to clean out. So there's a lot of hope. I will tell you, there's a lot of people out here that are very hopeful about your campaign and what you will be able to do once elected and sworn into office in January of 2027. So, and
like you said, it's going to be day one.
Day one.
We have a plan for day one to get things done.
Yeah. One thing before we go to any questions and let people think about their questions, but one of the things that you have talked about and you announced when you first announced that you were running is the Public Corruption Unit, the PCU. Can you tell us a little bit about that, what your vision is for that, and how that might actually help the AG's office really ferret out some of this waste, fraud, and abuse?
So, and that's going to be one of the first two things I do on day one, right after getting inaugurated. We're going to establish the Public Corruption Unit, the PCU, made up of prosecutors, investigators, and volunteers. I've now decided that we are going to use the many retirees that we have in South Carolina to volunteer to be on the PCU, because these are the things, this is what the PCU is going to do. First, as Attorney General, I'm not going to let the House ethics or the Senate ethics tell us what a crime is. We will determine what a crime is. That's the Attorney General's job. That's the solicitor's job, not House and Senate ethics. That's the fox guarding the hen house. So we are going to have those retirees and some members of the PCU go through every public official's ethics disclosures, campaign disclosures, and statement of economic interest, because the crimes are usually right under our noses. If a public official is buying suits, clothes with their campaign money, that's probably a crime. So we're going to take a look at it, and we're going to take the case. If you see a statement of economic interest and you see public officials cutting themselves checks from their public office, that very likely could be a crime. So we're going to take a look at that. A crime just like those clerks have been indicted for in Williamsburg County and Colleton County. So the PCU is going to be very active in that. We're also going to be very active in transparency. We're not going to have county councils and town councils going into executive session anymore to talk about budget issues. We will send members of the PCU there to remind them that that can not only get you in trouble civilly, but that can get you in trouble criminally. And when we have private citizens and watchdog groups, and yes, the press, get ignored on their Freedom of Information Act requests, they will come to the Public Corruption Unit and we will sue on their behalf to get that information. And we'll never have to file suit, because once I say, or the Attorney General's office says, turn this over to us, they're going to do it, or we'll just go in there and get it with subpoenas or search warrants. I mean, yeah.
Yeah,
So
you have talked about the FOIA issue, and that is a big problem in this state as well. I mean, you'll FOIA documents, and we've heard it, we've seen it, we've known about documents because people told us about them. We FOIA them, and then we're told they don't exist. And it's like, wait a second, somebody's lying here, and I don't think it's the kind of the whistleblower that's out there. So
6 months later, you're told they don't exist.
Right. Yes. And they delay. And, we'll fight that fight. The one other thing, there was a hit piece text that came out against you earlier this week. Do you want to address any of that before we go to?
It's the same people I've been dealing with for 10 years. I know who they are. They haven't been able to lay a finger on me in 10 years. This isn't going to work. And the other thing, I will say this, that because I know who they are, I have domain sites with their names now, all of them. And we're going to have some fun, because I can walk and chew gum at the same time. I can run my campaign and stay focused, which is the number one thing, and have fun at their expense. And we're going to start rolling that out probably sometime in the next year. We'll do it alphabetically. It'll start with the letter A, like in the name Adam. And
it's a different Adam. I think it's.
And we'll all the trust me, all of it doesn't matter. And we're going to roll it out. I'm going to have some fun with it. So most of it's a bunch of misrepresentations and lies. I'm not going to let it derail us.
Sure.
I didn't see the text. What did they say?
It was a text about him and supporting Biden and being a Democrat and yada yada.
Huge shock. I was a Democrat at one time, like Donald Trump, Ronald Reagan, and everybody else. But then they mix in some lies too that are just like I'm for DEI hires of judges. Really? Okay. And that's why I'm just going to stay focused. I have by far on law and order. I have by far the most conservative record of anybody running for governor or attorney general. Have any of them put anybody on death row? No. Have any of them sent anyone to their executioner like I have? Were they the first ones to call for the firing squad in South Carolina? No, I was. Are they the ones who have called out the $75 million in cronyism going to government contracts, going to law firms? No, I am. So were they the ones that endorsed Republicans against liberal, powerful Democrats in the Senate like Gerald Malloy? No, because they didn't have the guts. I did.
Yeah.
So, you know.
And the Gerald Malloy, just so people know, he was a very powerful state senator out of the PD region or whatnot. I'm not sure exactly, but a Republican ran against him and challenged him this past term. David Pascoe, as a Democratic solicitor, endorsed the Republican. Guess what happened here in Greenville, South Carolina? Our Republican senator, Republican solicitor, Walt Wilkins. Guess who Walt Wilkins endorsed? The Democrat. So, I mean, I tell people all the time, if they got a concern, and I've had to do this a couple of times with people, they reach out, they know we're supportive of you, and they'll say, but he used to be a Democrat, and that's a concern, yada, yada. We kind of go through that thing. I said, well, show me one Republican that will prosecute these people. Show me a Republican that will go after other Republicans and expose them for what they're doing. And all I get is, you know what, you're right. And then they'll ask me for your phone number. They'll talk to you, and then they'll call me back and say, he's the real deal. And I'm like, okay, so why would I refer somebody who's not the real deal? But,
you guys support a bunch of rhinos. That's your problem. Orangeburg at least was smart enough to support a dino. Okay.
It is quite funny. So, but I'm like, to get into office, you had to really be a Democrat or a D behind your name in Orangeburg, and even after a lot of the stuff that you've dealt with, you've had a very successful bipartisan elections down there, getting yourself reelected against Republicans in Republican areas. So we congratulate that. But I think the people on both sides, Republican and Democrat, are looking for folks that will clean house, true Democrats and true Republicans. I think we all want to get to the same place. We all want a better world, a better state, a better county, a better country, all that kind of stuff. We may have differences on how to get there, but I think we can all agree that cleaning out corruption is what needs to get done, and we need to get somebody to do it. And I've said it 1,000 times, and I'll say it to you publicly or on here. This is probably the most important position and most important election that's coming out next June 9th. The Republican will win. So whoever wins the June 9th primary, I think you're a shoo-in for it. We'll win in November and then hit the ground running January of 2027. We're excited about that. Who's got a question? I see you got a question. Speak loud. And I'll repeat it just in case.
I'm one of the people that got the text that was quite damning information about you. And my question is, when did you change? When did you become a Republican? And the photo of you with Joe Biden, there were several photos that I got in the text message. But Joe Biden, when was that taken? When did the transfer or the when did it occur?
Did you hear that?
I think those pictures, most of them were taken back when he was vice president. Most of them. Okay. But here's when to answer the question about becoming a Republican and why I ultimately decided to do it. Again, I've always been a conservative.
Yes.
I've always been pro-life. I've always been pro-capital punishment. And I've always been pro-law enforcement, pro-victim, and tough on crime. What happened with Biden, however, is we had a falling out after he picked Kamala Harris as his vice president. Because then I realized, well, then this guy wasn't telling me the truth about wanting tough prosecutors in his administration. And I totally left him. You see all these reports. Here's another lie in that text. Republicans kept me from being the United States attorney? No, I didn't get the nomination because we had a falling out. I wasn't going to work for his administration. I told them right after Labor Day when they asked me in 2020, will you campaign for Biden in Florida, Virginia? And I said, no. He picked a progressive liberal as his vice president. You lied to me. I don't want anything to do with it. And then after and you remember this now, in 2024, the Republican and Democrats came together and sent out mail calling me a MAGA Democrat. They spent thousands of dollars on digital calling me a MAGA Democrat also. Now they're trying to switch it and lie and call me a rhino. But to get back to the question, when I decided you cannot be a member of the Democratic Party anymore, was when Joe Biden commuted the sentence of 37 of this country's most evil murderers, one of whom, Brandon Council, walked in a bank in Myrtle Beach and executed 2 women when he didn't have to. And that's when I knew right then and there, well, that's it. I'm done with this party. You just can't be a member of a party that cares more about murderers than it does victims. And then there's and one more reason I want to talk to you about. Remember this. After I finished with the corruption probe, I decided to go across this state and talk about corruption and the need for judicial reform back in late 2021. And I got invited to speak to 26 or 28 groups in the last 4 years to talk about that issue. Every single one of those groups, the first one being the Greenville GOP on January 6, 2022. Right. Every single one of those groups was Republican or conservative. Not one Democratic Party group invited me to come speak about corruption. So that was another reason. I realized if you're going to fight corruption in South Carolina, and I'm the only candidate that's even talking about corruption in South Carolina, if you're going to fight it, you got to do it with the GOP. So I did the same thing that Ronald Reagan and Donald Trump and many others have done. Did not change my values. I changed my party.
Yeah, and I would add to that. I think David Pascoe was disliked in the Democratic Party leadership as much as we are disliked in the Republican leadership. It's not, I mean, what we talk about, it's a uniparty, number one, and they're all protecting themselves and it's all the corruption and stuff like that. I don't hear out of Mr. Pascoe, what he's talking about is really that he changed that much. I'm like, I just kind of fell in. Yeah, the party changed. His party changed. The Biden, I mean, and I don't know the timeline and all the stuff with Biden and but I mean, I would think, why would they not have, if he's that close to Biden, why would Biden not have nominated him to be, U.S. attorney for the state of South Carolina? Because Biden had the Senate, they had that, in the presidency. He could have nominated him and gotten him through with 50 votes if that's what they want. The Republicans couldn't stop, him from being, the U.S. attorney in the state. I think neither side really wanted him because as U.S. attorney, he could have done enough damage as well as as maybe more. I don't know, as the South Carolina Attorney General. So that's it. Henry, yes, sir. Henry Scott.
How hard is it going to be for you to implement judicial reform?
Yeah, I'm not going to be able to implement it, but what I can do is use it as a bully pulpit and continue to raise examples of why we need judicial reform. It's going to ultimately be up to the legislature to get judicial reform passed. We're getting really, really close and at least getting all the legislators off of the Judicial Merit Selection Committee. That's a huge first step. And what I'm going to do as Attorney General is I'm going to use my position as a bully pulpit, not just to talk about, oh, we need it. If you guys, and I think y'all have, I've been to Greenville before and spoken to the party and given specific examples of the corruption and the rot that goes on with the JMSC. And this isn't a threat, but I've told those legislators through others, it's not a threat, it's a prophecy. I'm prophesizing. I will continue to give specific examples about that rot and corruption that takes place in the JMSC if you don't hurry up and pass a law taking all the legislators off the JMSC.
And I think you can do it with actual examples of what judges are doing out there. I mean, I can tell you in my experience, I know they say that I I've had 255 lawsuits or 500 lawsuits, all that. I've had 7 or 8. But I will tell you, I was called back by a judge who's now retired, and I think he's completely out of it. They're in Richland County with the opposing counsel on a case. And we walked out, and the opposing counsel, who was not always friendly with me, he'd sat there and looked at me and said, I've never seen a judge do that. Mm-hmm. I have seen judges chew me out in chambers in the back. And I'm like, where in the planet did this come from? I know where it came from. It came from a lawyer legislator giving them a call. Mm-hmm. And I will tell you, even in one of our first cases that we hired, it was the McNair firm. It was, one of the biggest firms in the state. And I think they thought, it was a tax issue. It'll be real easy. Maybe, and they looked at our stuff. They're like, this is obviously a misunderstanding. And they came back from the meeting with the head of the Department of Revenue, who now resigned, I think resigned because of this, in part, and sat there and said, yeah, they're definitely after you. I've had legislators say that we were targeted because of political things. And that with that one attorney, and I won't throw his name out there at this time, but he made the statement. He's like, it is not uncommon in this state for a lawyer legislator to call a judge and tell them how they want the case to turn out. Mm-hmm. I think that goes on. And I was floored because being a transactional guy, I wasn't a litigator. I didn't deal with judges, any of that type of stuff. My jaw hit the floor, and I'm like, and you guys as lawyers, because that's what they teach us. We have to take ethics classes and all these things, but the lawyers are going along with it too. This guy didn't want to lose his lake house and all that other kind of stuff, but Donald's moving around. Donald's all obviously excited about your campaign.
He's basically endorsing me right now. Look at that.
There's your endorsement. All right, 2 more questions from Henry.
Which states would you model judicial reform after?
Which states would you model?
Fantastic question. All right, we're not going to be able to have publicly elected judges, not anytime soon, right? Because that would take a constitutional amendment. So that's why I'm in favor of first step, take all the legislators off the JMSC. Then there is a second step that I think we must do to have true reform, and it's called the Missouri Plan. So I guess I'm modeling it after Missouri and other states. Let me tell you how that works. So let's say there's an opening for a Greenville judgeship right now, right? They'll go through a gubernatorially appointed JMSC of 12 members. They'll screen, vet the judges, determine who's qualified. Then they go in front of the legislature. And yes, the legislature will elect a judge. And let's say they elect a judge, okay? Judge Smith. That judge then completes their 6-year term. I don't want them to go back to the JMSC and the legislature. I want the people to vote on that judge. And what the Missouri Plan does is that judge will then be put on the ballot, okay? And you'll be given an up or down just for that judge. No other judicial races, millions of dollars aren't being spent on candidates for judgeship. It's just an up or down on Judge Smith. If the people of Greenville like Judge Smith, think he or she's done a good job, boom. If they think no, and the judge gets a negative, that judge is then removed, and then we'll start the process over with the new judges running in front of the JMSC. Look, and then being elected by the legislature. And look, no system is perfect, right? We're never going to have a perfect system. But think about how good this plan is. It would call for the executive branch to be involved in the front end with the JMSC, calls for the legislative branch to be involved with electing the judge initially. And then, in my opinion, most important of all, it calls for the people to be involved on the retention of that judge. So that's what I would like to see. So you asked me what states do I want to model it after? I want to do a hybrid that kind of models it after the many states that use that Missouri Plan on how they pick judges.
Do you think this could start happening within 2 years?
Yes, I think it could. I absolutely think it can. If we put pressure on the legislature, and look, guys, there's a bill. They're all talking about how they're going to support a bill taking legislators off the JMSC, which is step one. We got to make sure that it gets passed before March, because you know what's going to happen come March 31st or April 1st when they're unopposed. They're going to make sure the JMSC reform dies.
And that's the filing deadline, the March 15th, April 1st or whatnot, the filing deadline. If you're unopposed for office, they're high-fiving each other. We need candidates running against every single one of them to keep them on the hook until June 9th. And by June 9th, the session will be over and they either voted for it and passed it or they didn't. And if they didn't, they need to be removed. That's judicial reform. And I assume that's some of the stuff y'all talked about at that press conference y'all did back on November 15th and all that type of stuff.
Best of luck.
Thank you.
Hope you win by a majority.
Well, with Henry's support, you got it. You got Greenville with Henry. So, and I'm glad you didn't answer that you'd want to model it after Virginia, because they're the one other state that's just like us. So that would have been my joke. Oh, Virginia, they got a great system up there.
But even Virginia doesn't have that weird JMSC and that lawyer legislator control that we have in South Carolina.
Yes, and Virginia, the other thing I say, South Carolina somewhat even worse is than Virginia's, because in Virginia, if the legislature's out of session, the governor can appoint, I think, a judge, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, that's, and Olga reminds me, and I had thought about it too. Who exactly just got passed by the Judicial Merit Selection Committee for the South Carolina State Supreme Court as one of the options?
Jay Lucas, the former Speaker of the House?
Yes.
There's no cronyism there.
Yeah. Jay Lucas, one of the most powerful at his time when he was Speaker of the House. He did not run. I guess he got out of office. And I think maybe he saw the writing on the wall. I don't know. Went back to his legal practice, and I think Hartsville, if I'm not mistaken. Never been a judge before, but the Judicial Merit Selection Committee has approved him as qualified, one of the qualified folks, and I assume he'll be one of the three that'll be up for it to be one of the new state Supreme Court justices.
Yep.
So
Inside Baseball says he's got the inside track.
I'm sure he does. And if I'm not mistaken, what seat is he running for? Is that
He's running against John Few. And I think Tripp Anderson is running for that seat too, and Blake Hewitt. Probably 4 people will be coming out to run for that seat.
So imagine a sitting state Supreme Court justice is now going up against a former Speaker of the House, and the House and the Senate are voting. I mean, who do you think is going to win here? I mean, and it's not going to stop until we get folks like David elected and folks that are going to go in there and willing to shake it up. So anything else? Any other questions? We're good. You good? Anything else?
Great. I hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving.
We did, and I hope my face doesn't look too fat because I ate a lot yesterday. But one thing I want to ask you, and one thing I do hope we can set up is I love your presentation. You do a PowerPoint, you give those examples. We've had you do it here. I'll reflect back. You mentioned it, the first presentation you did, and we caught a lot of grief here in Greenville for doing it. I certainly did. Was on January 6, 2022. Yes, that you came and spoke to the Greenville County Republican Party, and I got a whole lot of grief for having a Democrat come speak to a Republican group. But look at all the other Republican groups that have subsequently invited you to it, and a lot of changed minds, that have occurred since then, and we're excited about that. But I would like to do a Zoom call or a presentation like this, get you on here and go through that online presentation, because I don't think a lot of people have been able to see it. And I think there's a lot of folks out there that we can share that PowerPoint presentation with, your discussion of what actually has gone on, and give some of those live examples. Some of these folks don't like it, but you're doing it in small group, large group meetings across the state. But we would like to see you do that. If we can get you to come back and do that for us, we would greatly appreciate it.
You pick the date, and I'm going to do it, and then we'll see. Then everybody will see why you got those texts. They're scared to death.
Yes,
and they should be scared to death.
They are.
And you're going to keep getting some texts, but you'll get texts from me too, and we're going to have some fun with them now that I know who they are.
It's going to be a really fun race, and I'm sure you know who they are because we always do. But they come out anonymously, and I'm like, don't trust anything anonymous. You know, if they're not willing to put their name to it, and I wish they would put their name to it. You know who they are. We know some of the names. Put their name to it, and then let's get them all on the record. So I mean, it's fantastic.
I'm putting my name to it.
Yep. Yes, sir. All right. Well, David, thank you for your time.
Thanks, y'all.
Get back to family and friends, and have a rest of your happy Thanksgiving weekend.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
All righty.
Yeah, and we'll have more than 6 people show up.
We'll have more than 6 people on the call.
I ever heard of.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Man. Well, when was it we had him? I mean, we came.
Out to the
It was
school?
in jail, man.
No, it was at Wade Hampton.
Wade Hampton. When
Yes.
was that?
When was
That was earlier this
Earlier
year.
this
That was
year,
yeah.
yeah.
That was
March or when was it?
no. I was chair already,
was
so it
something
was
recent that
June,
I-
July, August. Yeah,
I remember
yeah.
we went.
Yeah.
But the very first one,
First one is
which
on.
I actually thought, because I knew him as a Democrat, but he was talking corruption. I didn't really care about.
Recently changed.
We-
Like,
Back then we told him
He
was
changed
always
back
Republican.
in March. He officially did the announcement back
when
in
we had
March.
him, when y'all said come see us, he was still a Democrat.
No.
And then in the middle of it, I think he changed or something. And when he talked to us, he was a Republican.
Yes,
Yes,
and he I think
yeah.
he switched because we drove down to it. It was in Dorchester, at the Dorchester GOP meeting, or where they normally meet, because that's where he's part of his district, solicitor's district, is down there in Dorchester. So he has support from the Dorchester and the Berkeley and the Orangeburg folks and all that kind of stuff. And we went down to it. It was very interesting.
July 11th.
Okay.
But July 11th is when we had
When we
him
had him.
here. Wow, has it been that long?
Yeah,
Jeez.
I know.
It's amazing how fast time goes. Yeah.
Yeah. He had that great presentation.
Yeah, but I'm like, there was 2 people. We had taken over or gotten elected into our positions of the Greenville GOP in April of 21, and we had him come, and in January, and it was January 6th. And what was the funny thing about it? I was waiting for him to say, "Well, I don't really want it to be associated with January 6th." He never said anything about it. I was like waiting for the guy to sit there and say, "Can we have it any other day than January 6th because I'm a Democrat and he never said anything. He never. I mean, he was like always willing to go. And I will tell you, Greg Peck is not here today. He's our parliamentarian. Greg Peck talked to him at that meeting, and that's and Pascoe has been open about it. He's always been pro-life. I don't know where on that spectrum he is pro-life, like some folks, but we don't know where that spectrum most Republicans are either. But Greg Peck went up to him and said, "You're not a Democrat, And Pascoe just kind of smiled, because I don't think he really has been. If anything, he was a dino, Democrat in name only.
Yeah.
He ran for office, just like we know we got him on the Republican side. They knew they had one down there, but I think he gets out and talks to the people. And I think the people of Orangeburg and Calhoun County and Dorchester County, Dorchester's more Republican now than it certainly used to be, but Calhoun and Orangeburg are firmly Democratic counties. And he got elected, even being a disliked Democrat, and even being a pro-life Democrat, and even being a pro-capital punishment Democrat. Show me a Republican that'll do this. David Stumbo, there's 2 main opponents. There's David Stumbo, who's a solicitor from up here in the Greenwood area, and then State Senator Stephen Goldfinch, who also went to the Citadel, younger than us. But Stephen Goldfinch, he's out because he's one of the ones that helped go after Curtis Loftus, him and Larry Grooms. So, I mean, you remember the 2 people speaking in the 10 hours of the trial of Curtis Loftus? I mean, it was the Larry Grooms and it was Stephen Goldfinch. And you're sitting there going, you just ended your career if you think about running for a statewide office, because Curtis is that popular. And then the whole thing was a power grab by the Senate and totally made up. But the second person is David Stumbo. You heard me complain earlier about the former chair in Lexington Craig Caldwell, who sat there and embezzled over $100,000. The only reason, and it was David Stumbo that cut him a deal that he didn't have to serve any time. That he only had, I think, 30 months of wasn't even community service. It was
Time served or something,
well, it was 30 months of what do they call that?
I don't know. I was thinking.
It's not pardon. It's not parole. Probation. Yes. Thank you, sir. Chemo break. Probation. And, and I'm like 30 months of probation. And the guy took $100,000 and gave back, I think, 17,000 in restitution. I don't know the exact numbers. We can get the exact numbers and figure it out. But, I don't think it was complete restitution.
No,
and it certainly, wasn't somebody who's in an elected office who I think is somebody we're giving additional credibility to as a leader in our community. It's not like you stole Anthony's mail or vice versa. It's these are people that have to be held to a higher standard, period. I am held to a higher standard, because otherwise I'd be in jail, but I'm also held to a much higher transparency standard. These elected officials, all of them, need to be held to a much higher transparency and standard, and just, public service standard. You can't say, whoops, I made a mistake. There is no whoops, I made a mistake taking out my competitor's political flyer out of a mailbox and thinking it's okay. That's a problem. So, questions?
Yeah, questions. No, I'm thinking this Pascoe, Loftus, and the controller you had zoomed in,
Like Burkhold.
who sounded really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, there's hope for South Carolina.
There is. I mean, to me,
Yeah.
June 9th of next year is this is the most hopeful time, that we've had in a long time. Certainly since we've been involved in all this mess.
We just need a education person to
So
step up.
we need a new somebody. We need one person, one conservative in this state that will run for South Carolina Superintendent of Education, and then we'll have it. And we got to figure out the governor's race too. So,
Who's running?
the governor, you got Nancy Mace.
Ah,
She shakes things up. You got Pamela Vett, more of the same. Alan Wilson, our current Attorney General, the one that will prosecute any of this stuff. Then you got Josh Gambrell, who's probably going to be prosecuted himself.
Yeah.
And then you got Ralph Norman. So you got those five.
So he'll probably win, not Ralph. Josh.
Josh Gambrell?
Since he's gonna be-
He's definitely at 1%, and he doesn't even show up out there.
I just figured he is a criminal, so
We don't know he's a criminal, but
allegedly.
there's some civil cases that have gone on, and I've read them, and it's pretty brutal. And apparently there is supposed to be
There is something there.
investigation that's going on. We'll see.
Yep.
But okay. What else?
Do we have any AI update?
An AI update?
Or any AI?
I don't know where Scott and Austin went to.
Any new?
What they did do, and we can show some of it if we want to talk about it, but they now have on our GOP.plus, which is outside the party, obviously, but they have linked the legislative stuff on there. What I've told Scott earlier is we will certainly do a demo for that, because we've got texting, we got voter data, we got legislative stuff, and I want to get and demonstrate to some more folks about what we can do, because we're dialing all of this up, and we need teams and we need folks to do it on the voter data. We need people to go out and do social media canvassing, and we're going to talk about some things of what we found very successful in these last elections. We did a lot of things that were very good, and we learned a lot of things. But I will tell you, and I'm going to give Glenn Hurst a lot of credit for this. In his precinct, which had a very small part of the city of Simpsonville, Jerry Tussaud won it. 2 votes for Lou Hutchin, 27 for Jerry Tussaud. Now, I know it does not a lot of numbers, but we can do it in your Sandy Flat precinct. We can do it in everybody's precinct. But what Glenn got out and did, he worked the numbers. He went and knocked on those doors, It wasn't a big group. It's a very small annex part of his precinct that was in the city. And he went and talked to him. And, in a small race like that, a plus 25 votes made a difference. In a full precinct, that could be a plus 250 votes. In a plus 250 votes or a plus 100 extra votes out of a precinct, when you're running for state house, when it may be 12 precincts, that's an extra 1,200 votes. That will win every single contested race in the Republican primary in this state. And if we can do that I think it's right around 3,000. We'll get the exact number of precincts we got in the state. But if we can do that, we got to first do it for what we're doing here in Greenville. But if we can do it across the state, and there is a movement amongst our folks that we want to get a challenger for every House rep that's coming up. There's 124 of them. I don't really care about the Democrats, whatever, but for every one of the Republicans, they ought to have a challenger. Because guess what? If they don't have, and David kind of said, if we don't have it passed by March 15th or April 1st, it's not going to get passed. Because if they don't have an opponent, they're not going to do anything. So we got to make sure they are going to stay on the hot seat until the end of the session or until June 9th when they get voted out. Because if they don't give us judicial reform, then they need to go. Because every one of them talks about it. And that's been our proof or whatnot, proof of concept of every single Republican says they support school choice, right? And we have been fighting this battle for 10 years, 10 years too long, because they should have done exactly what they needed. The question was, any more update on the AI? I can show what we're doing, or you can just give a verbal update, and then we can schedule some other things. But what I want to do ultimately is we'll start doing ramping up our trainings on Saturdays, and we're going to start doing some of the hardcore precinct trainings, getting stuff out there. And I think the base of that will be what you guys are doing on the GOP Plus.
So the latest, there's a lot going on with AI, but think of it as we have to go harvest data, and we have to pick it from somewhere. We purchased data in the past 3 times, 2024, but we need data, refreshed. And so we're going to need to crowdsource the new voter data at some point,
or somehow get these people to give us the data for free.
Yeah, I mean,
but that's the data problem Scott's talking about. The state of South Carolina, to get the state voter database, is $2,500.
Yeah, we did.
Go to Georgia, it's $50. Why is Georgia $50? Why is the state of New York 25 or free or whatever? It's because they don't want to share the data. So and look how corrupt this SC Votes was, and they just got rid of their executive director.
So that's the first thing is we need to get the data purchased again. We have a system of viewing the data through GOP Plus. It's fantastic. Creating walk lists are so simple. We are monitoring voter data daily changes for every precinct in the state, and it's like 7 days in now, so I'm seeing it run and everything. So we don't have a UI on that. There will be most likely to be an alert, like if a precinct grows by 10% or shrinks, I want to know why, because that's where'd the homes come from, and plus it happened over a day or happened over a week, we'll have an algorithm for that. We also have, and I'll get to the AI part here in a moment. We also collect voter legislation, all the legislation for the state on a daily basis too, and we do have a UI for that, for searching. So the legislation committee, I want to bump that please join the legislation committee if you have an issue that you're looking at, because that's where. That's what we need. I mean, he's right.
Because remember what we're doing. Campaigns are over. We're now going to turn the focus there to legislation. Because that's what they're coming back into office for. But it's also, we're building and what we're holding these guys and girls accountable for on the legislative stuff also fits back into the campaigns. Me personally, I'm into the campaigns because that's ultimately where we're going to get the right people elected.
On the technology side, Austin and I have to replay. We're everywhere. So the latest is I've got a little single board computer that Austin gave me on the night he won his role, his position. He's in the hospital, but
Austin is the one person that got elected to his position who wasn't even there.
And so this little computer, it's about, I don't know, about the size of a half size of a phone. It's doing a lot of work right now gathering this data, and so I thought that's a little too much work for this thing. It's awesome, but we need more compute power, and so I just bought 4 more of those, a little less powerful, and they're going to go on a rack in our data center. So we're going to have a little farm of computers that are going out and gathering data from different places to keep it refreshed and up to date. You know, we can't pull the data we can't pull voter data every day because $2,500 can't do that. Maybe one day, but we can look at other things that help us. Now, once we have that data, we're able to put some of it, or not all of it, but some of it that makes sense into a single file. And like for all the legislation, we can take the text for all the current legislation, or even historical, but it makes sense for the current, and put it in a file, and then upload it into Grok or whatever AI someone's using, and you can ask questions of it. And because the AI is only looking at the data you're interested in, it's highly accurate on viewing it and whatnot. So you can ask questions, and I'll do a class on I'm really into AI right now. I can tell which AI is giving me answers. I use a product called Cursor, and there's like 4 or 5 AIs in there, and I've gotten so comfortable with it, I can tell when Grok picks up or when Claude Sonnet picks up. So yeah, I'll do a class on that, so you know how to go about using the AI with the file. But
and that's really what I want. We do this on Fridays, but
Mhm.
you know, a lot of people can't come on Fridays.
Yeah.
I want us to start doing more stuff on Saturday mornings.
So yeah,
And get back more into the civic engagement type trainings and all that kind of stuff. And because we 6 months
And the
before
other
the
thing too
elections.
is as we gather our knowledge into documents, like approaches of how to go walking or different aspects of door knocking and whatnot, I want to create a help file together that you can drop into AI and ask questions. And that's the whole idea. Right. Or maybe I'll talk to Austin. Maybe we can put that on GOP Plus, where you'll have a little bot and you ask questions and it answers you real time, as if someone's there, but it's really just our knowledge added into a file that then that AI is responding to. So
AI is super exciting right now because they're all competing against each other because somebody wants to be the winner. Somebody wants to have the Google Chrome of AI where everybody uses it, and so all of these people are fighting it out right now and expanding and growing. And you see all the Black Friday deals and all. I mean, it's like holy cow, when are they going to start paying us to use it? That's what I like it.
It's all based on tokens. It's a weird concept, but you pay for these tokens and they do a certain amount of compute power in the data centers. Okay. And I noticed Claude Sonnet 4.5, its token price is quite expensive compared to Grok, which is, we'll say it's $1 something for Claude. I don't quote me on that, but the way Grok is doing it, they're charging it like 2 cents. So they're really undercutting everyone on the compute power cost. And so I'll just move over to Grok because it'll cost me less.
Right.
So, but yeah, everything you do, every question you ask, that's what the subscription's for. Is that it'll cap you at some point. And so you want to have your data arranged, and you want to have your questions. Ask anything you want, but don't have a conversation with it just to talk to it. And it will talk back. I mean,
it does, and it's a little strange.
Grok will freak you out because it's a female's voice. And I have my father-in-law who's in investments, and he's retired, but he runs all of his accounts and whatnot, all of his investments. And he refers to Grok as her because it's a female voice. And I'm like,
and some of the people that worry about the psychological thing of that is you're supposed to be mean to Grok, so you're not then falling in love with Grok or the AI or whatever. Because people do some weird things.
I learned this weekend that my husband argument with Rob.
Who won?
I texted him last night. I'm like, that's what you're spending your time on.
I like
That argument,
testing
he
them
was-
to see
Yeah,
what
he
they
was
say and
proving
do.
Grog that Grog didn't remember what they had a conversation about 6 months ago.
Oh, yesterday, the day before.
Oh, sorry.
It's
Um,
weird. And then I tested one time, and we were doing, I think, probably a press release because it's easy to write. So, I mean, there's some things it does very good, some things that, but you got to check all of it because even in this thing, it's former President Trump did such and such. I'm like,
yeah.
imagine we just took it and just sent it out. Saying former President Trump. I'm like, whatever the AI was we were using did not know who Trump was the current president.
And that's based
It's
on
weird.
the data that it went to.
Yes.
And so that's why you have to narrow what it looks at.
Right.
And then if it's only looking at data you can trust, you're going to get a lot of accuracy out of it. I mean, it'd be the difference of going to CNN for any information at all.
There is a CNN or AI, and then the Fox AI.
Or worse, MSNBC. At least CNN attempts to make it look right.
Yes.
But
we're going to do a lot more of that because think of everybody's interested in school board. You're doing the school board. So if we want to change the Greenville County School Board, those elections, 6 of the 12 will be up for a re-election next November. We have to do what Glenn did in his precinct on a small scale. We got to do it in all of those precincts. We got to do it in all 151 precincts here.
One of the
We've got to get this set up.
This rack that I'm putting together of all these little computers, one of the ideas is that if you're running a campaign, we can take one of those and let's say we're supporting a candidate, and we can run processes where it looks for bad press and looks for lies and whatnot. And we just collect it so we can respond to it. So we don't, obviously it's not going to get everything, but we'll look at what we can look at and try to gather it. What that source would be, I don't know yet, but that's the idea.
Well, if you could actually get it to search AI, once AI starts searching Facebook and all that stuff, and I'm not sure if it is yet. I'm not sure if they do or allow it or whatnot, but
I think it's behind a paywall.
Yeah.
Well, not that you pay for Facebook, but
there's
I think
something
there's
that
a
it doesn't
paywall to
do it. Yes. But I mean, somebody is probably doing it. It's probably the CIA or whomever, but they're tracking all of this and they're tracking all the data and all of your footprint is out there.
Well, this is how I would go about it, is there's products like Selenium, I think that's the name of it. I'm doing a form of it when I'm screen scraping, and what they do is they automate the app to search. Okay, so it wouldn't be as good as looking at the data and just pulling data in, but they can automate Facebook to search on certain people and then look at the results and crawl through. So it's not, it's not.
Does that answer your question about what's?
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
It is, but realize, but it also takes human power. I mean, you can't just press a button or think something and it happens. We're going to need these guys that can do that high-end technology, and we're going to need everybody else. We're going to need a lot of people. That we have a texting system that Austin built as part of our GOP Plus thing, that you can send text from your personal. Right now it's just iPhones, but and Terry's done. I've done. Several of us have done it. You can put 50 phone numbers in there or 100 a day. Imagine we had 50 people doing 100 texts out to find Trump supporters. That's 5,000 texts a day that we don't have to pay a dime for, right? You could go broke trying to fight the machine, the deep state and the dark money, but we can do it. But we need to set that up, programatize it, get in here on a Saturday morning, train people, and get our team of 50 folks or 100 folks or 200 folks that are going to do it. And we need to do what Glenn Hurst has talked about with his precinct. And I need to get you your data for your precinct. So I go.
You're a busy man.
But I've told you could actually slap me and hit me if you asked again. So maybe that's why she's here. They always. Oh, yes.
Let the bidding begin.
That is one of our silent auction items that we will, of Donald Trump's star from the Walk of Fame. So we're excited about that. So thank you for that donation. Yep.
Monday.
Yep. But what Glenn even asked, and he took it one more step. He said, Jeff, can I get the list of people who actually did vote? It's only 29 people, but can I get the actual list so I can send them a thank you note?
Oh yeah.
You know, I mean, that's the kind of in-depth that AI is not going to do that for you. AI is not going to knock on the door and do it. AI is not going to take a package of information and put it on the right people's door in your precinct. We really need people to get involved. We need to multiply what you can do, your effectiveness, you know, with the technology, but we need people.
And if I can add to that, AI really enhances you in whatever you do. Okay, so that's how there's a lot of people in technology that are freaking out about AI. I was one of them at one point. I said, never put AI against our data. We don't at work. We don't do it. But it helps us develop faster. There's a lot of things we can do so much faster with AI. And that's also the research you're doing in, let's say, a legislation team. If you're pro-life, we can take a file of all the legislation and you can ask AI questions on that data, and you can find where pro-aborts have put in legislation in other bills, meaning there's something in there that affects pro-life in an indirect way. And by asking AI questions, and you're the driver, you're the brain. AI is just answering you on the information it finds.
But think about this. If you have something you're trying to accomplish, I put a third of it in this bill, a third in this bill, and a third in this bill. Nobody realizes what's really going on.
Yeah.
It gets passed, and all of a sudden, nope. AI can actually search that stuff out.
And can I also make
Yes.
mention?
Yes,
We're
please.
now discovering that interesting zoning has started to crop up.
That's where I think it's probably happening. Locally, these things are getting pieced.
Do yourself a favor. Please check each and every one of your own zoning areas around your home. I have found in Sans Souci Heights that there is a little bit of zoning that just crept in apparently in the 1940s and the 1950s, but nobody had utilized it, but allows a 6-unit attached complex that would be 48 feet high and 5 feet off the property line. Now, how would you like that in a single family 2 to 4 unit neighborhood? Answer, you wouldn't.
Wow.
So at this point right now, I'm working directly with county council. So we are going to go ahead and highlight each one of those. We have to get county council to do a specific ordinance to do that. So the more information I have on that, if you find things like that, super, super important. I'm also going to be able to go through, and unfortunately, and I don't mean to be negative, but I guess I will be. The staff has been not very particularly helpful. So I'm finding some other ways around the staff to be able to get that information out. Like I said, I was shocked to find out 6-unit attached building.
So this, even though we're looking at state legislation now, we could drop in some of the stuff in the zoning stuff in particular on a county level. That
So
could find that for you quick.
That like it's already on the books. You just got to find it.
I got to find it.
Oh, I'll help with that.
I got to find it.
Oh yeah.
Because we had, for example, one thing that came through, which was a tiny home development. Which was fine. I go out and I look at all of the subdivisions and I talk to the residents and what have you. And they came before us in the planning commission and they wanted to go 5 feet instead of 10 feet in between the tiny home units. Okay. And I'm listening to this during the presentation, and I'm going, so I'm really, really confused because they like you as an owner, but I don't understand why are you going to be moving all of these tiny homes? There's got to be 150 tiny homes. Why are you moving them 5 feet around each other? And it turns out that the owner said, "Oh, it's only 5 units." I said, "Well, how did you find these 5 units?" Well, apparently the building zoning people went out and found this violation on these tiny, tiny homes. And so what we're going to be doing as planning commissioners saying, okay, come back to us next month. Give us a list of 5 or 6 of these tiny homes that you just need a variance on. And we're not going to do a variance for the entire tiny home group. Got it? We'll do it for 5 or 6 of these and we'll accommodate you. At this point, they're all like, that's all we had to do? Of course, I looked over at staff and I said, is there any chance that we might be able to maybe make it a little easier for government to get out of the way? Do I not understand something? Of course, I was said, well, you're being negative again, Deborah.
Welcome to my world.
Welcome to my world.
If you're in Berea, check out at the corner of Lily and North Parker and see if you like that next door to you.
And incidentally, what was built there was approved by staff, not by us, by staff. They got Duke Energy to allow some of their easement to build duplexes, a series of 3 duplexes. 4 duplexes.
Oh,
They are horrendous. So we're trying to get that also clawed back as well. Some of these things, it's just, you scratch your head and go, why would you approve something like this?
I mean, I hate to say it, but it's 9 to 5 staff people that are running the show. I mean, Benton has a regular job, and those guys, they're counting. I mean, in the old days, I mean, a lot of people don't understand it. If you get elected to county council, you can't go talk to staff. You talk to Joe Cornell and or the legal counsel and the clerk, or whoever. Those 3. Now, I think they've lightened some of that up to get them to be able to go in and talk, but you don't get to go talk to the thousands of employees we have. Because I mean, think about it. I mean, I kind of understand that in some ways, but I'm like, they don't have that ability to do that. And so it all flows down from Joe Cornell. And what does Joe Cornell say? And I think we heard from one of our folks that was on the community relations thing that they just did. Joe Cornell was the final person speaking about it. And I think we need to revisit Joe Cornell. But he started saying that, we represent everybody in the county. Well, what about, do you represent the citizens and the taxpayers, or you represent everybody? He was making a point that it was everybody. So back to your issue about they're supposed to be servicing even the people that are illegal here and all of that stuff. And then we've got, I don't know if we got time to go into it. Maybe we'll do it next Friday, but what Hobart said on his podcast about there's only 7,000 illegals or undocumented people in the state of South Carolina. I think you got 7,000 in Berea, and okay, Olga's got one more thing to talk about, but let's talk about it when we can show the video and talk a little deeper about it and maybe get some more details on it, because it was his podcast comments were exactly opposite of the representatives that went and had a sit-down meeting with him and talked to him about ICE and what the sheriff's department was going to do with ICE. This, and our people, I will just tell you this just as a reference, our people came back here, gave our report, all excited and happy. And I said, be careful. Because, I mean, if it was a brand new person, we'll give them some more grace. But I'm like, this is somebody we have had lie directly to us about things, and you're excited about it. So let's test and see what happens. What was promised was not happen, and now he's on podcast on record saying the exact opposite of what he told our folks. So we'll go into that next Friday. Olga?
Well, Chuck is there, and Chuck want to give update on the
Oh.
city council meeting.
Chuck,
Chuck, you're up.
you're up.
I'm up. Okay.
If you wanted, I heard you wanted to give and tell us your thing. Your thing is make America buff again.
Make America, well, no, I'm actually not here to talk about that. I'm actually here to talk about actually a city council meeting.
Yes, and that was earlier this week. Was that Monday or Tuesday?
Yeah, it was on Monday.
Monday.
I went there.
The city of Greenville.
I'm so sorry, city of Greenville. Anyways, the good news is some good, bad news, I'd say, on it. It ended up being a 4-3 vote. They actually did pass the homeless encampment ban, the camping, the 2-hour camping ban in public areas, sidewalks, etc. It was a 3-3 split, and then the mayor did vote in favor of it. The disappointing part on that was it was supposed to go into effect in March, but now, and I look at it 2 different ways on this. Now they have to build like a homeless community center or something there, and I'm going to be honest, I would not want my home next to that. Just put Hunter Biden's home next to it. Right? Buy drugs from him. Anyways, I was disappointed about that, but I'm actually happy. The only reason I'm happy is I'm hoping and praying. Maybe they have something set aside in the past. Maybe they kind of put that as a trickery on there. So let's say in January, they just move it in, somebody in there, you know, in general. Once again, very sorry for whoever's home that's there. I hope not mine, actually. So, but I was the only person in the meeting actually that mentioned Trump's executive order ending crime and disorder in America. Went over that in detail. Endemic vagrancy as opposed to somebody being temporarily homeless. I mean, my thing is, and I actually did bring up a good point in there too. A lot of people are just, you know, I think it's more endemic vagrancy, people that are just, you know, kind of out there for 10 years just on the streets, as opposed to, there's like legitimate people that work 40 hours a week that are sleeping in their cars, but they're not bothering anybody. They're not the ones out there doing this, that. They have to work so much, or they're going to school. My mother actually was telling me a story. She went to school full time, worked full time. When she was in college, and there were times I had to sit in my car, but I wasn't out bothering people. I wasn't asking for money, you know, going up to their car. I remember even on Wade Hampton here one time over by, kind of by where Taylor's, where that the thing is there. I was in my convertibles, 2-seater convertible. Homeless guy comes up right across, crosswalk is probably about 10 feet in front of me at the light. Homeless guy comes right behind my car. I don't know what, he babbling something. I was like, luckily the light turned, I just turned, you know, and I go jogging. I live in the city. I love all the sidewalks and everything. I just love, like, you know, going for a nice run. I live kind of close to Haywood Mall. You know, I run up there, run to Crunch Fitness and Taylor's and back. You know, I have some crazy guy like just standing there, like, you know, looking, and I'm like, well, what's this guy gonna do? People coming up under the bridge, coming out from the woods. I had a guy with a bat one time come out from the woods. Luckily, he didn't do anything, but I'm going to say that was the fastest. It was uphill. I was going to say, that's the fastest I ever made it up that hill. I can tell you that. I was like, wow.
If you're running from Crunch Fitness to the Haywood Mall,
That's so good.
It's about 6 miles each way. Because I can't run up Haywood because there's no sidewalks I have to go. Right?
Wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
I have a quick question, and I didn't want to interrupt you.
Yeah,
but
no.
It concerns me that the city of Greenville is really trying to just move the homeless out into the county or into another city. And my thought is, I think we ought to go to county council and say, pass the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
I didn't know if the county, and I'm going to be honest, I apologize. I'm not that, I didn't know that much on there.
Right.
I didn't even think, prior to this, there were that many people in the meeting that went in there and said, listen, this is, you know, I didn't think it was in there. And there are people talking about camping right behind their homes, right behind their businesses, and just causing a disruption.
Well, this building was empty for 4 or 5 years, and they had people that were living in the back. That's why we cleared everything out and all.
We had like a camp back.
Yeah, and our neighbor next door, the backside of his property was more wooded. He's cleaned it out because, you know, but they were, I mean, we would come up here and you could see evidence of people just living back there.
Yeah, no, you have a valid point too.
it just feels like, oh, let's keep city of Greenville clean and move all the hobos out to the county or another city.
Well,
and it looks good for us, but you know, it just feels wrong. It just feels.
I agree 110% on that.
Yeah.
And there's a few points. I talked to my friend because I was a little disappointed on some of it because the penalty, obviously, they said that's a last resort, etc. I did talk to a friend. He's a Southern California. He's like a beach cop. Talked to him. I was, you know, venting a little bit about it. Talked to him a little bit about the whole situation. He said the one thing you have to look at isn't the penalties and the crime, that it is a crime technically. Gives the officer probable cause for search and seizure at that point.
Okay.
Therefore, they can check them. Therefore, they'll be able to, you
That's
know,
value.
something. Yeah, that's the value of it really more than anything. Because it's like a $10 penalty. It's really nothing for the most part. But it does give other avenues because nobody wants to do the stop and frisk anymore. Because, you know, it's a good idea, I think. But, you know, it just, a lot of people don't want to do it anymore. So it was just one of those things in general. And yeah, I felt good going in there. Trust me, going in there, it was, I was going to say, it was an awkward elevator ride out of there, you know, because a lot of people, I had 3 claps. I mean, it was, you know, liberal. It wasn't, people weren't in support of me. And I went in there. I felt stronger for doing it, you know, going up and giving my speech.
Good. I'm glad you did. Congratulations.
I appreciate it.
And I encourage you to go because that's what we need. We need citizens that will go into these meetings and come back and report.
And they do try to, one thing I do, if anybody's ever going to like a city council meeting, or especially by yourself, you don't know who's there to support you, who's not. If you don't, if you know people in there, that's one thing. If you don't, what I did specifically is I actually put headphones in when I was in there. And the good thing is you can have it's not like a courtroom. You have your home, the headphones, or cell phone, whatever. So I just put it in there and I just tried to go to the side. I'll be honest. I think somebody sent somebody to distract me slightly because I went in there last session. It was a weird conversation. I just had to turn them off for a second. I was listening to something on there, and I just I was like, well, because people will try to psych you out. I mean, that's the one thing in there. Best thing I always advise I'd give anybody, especially by yourself, just put your headphones in and just listen to something on your phone, and just once Pledge Allegiance goes on, you just get up. That's what I did. I didn't let anybody get in my head, try to give me ideas that I wouldn't agree with in general. So I just went there and very happy I did. The law enforcement was very supportive there. I went and talked to Chief Howie, and he's a good guy. I mean, his staff and all them. They really do try to make Greenville safe, and they're actually nice guys. They're not they're not those mean cops that you see that do things. These guys in Greenville City and County, they're just really good guys. I think they handle everything with grace. They don't they're not assaulting people. They're not doing anything like that. And there's a few police officers that have made like a bad name out of it, and they're not here. I mean, that's one thing, and I think they're very fair. They create but they do understand there has to be law and order. One of the councilmen, this guy he didn't even know the laws. It was a councilman, Ken Gibson. Yeah, he went in there and he was spouting. The mayor actually had to correct him because he said, well, the music ordinance, for example, that one doesn't have a criminal penalty, and we're putting one on this. And it didn't make any sense. And the mayor had to correct him. He's like, no, there's a criminal penalty. And this guy's a lawyer, which is
he's number one, he's a lawyer. Number two, he's trying to become a judge.
Geez, that's even worse.
No,
Not
not
him.
him.
He's trying. You go to the legislators, pick the judges, so you'll see him show up at legislator things and all
He
that.
has no business in a courtroom. But the city attorney was there. The city attorney was like, no, here's the statute, that she'd read it off to him. And I mean, here's even the worst thing. He was on the council. Even if you voted against it, you should kind of know what it is. I mean, especially as an attorney, I mean, you need to read over the things.
Wow.
It was just sad in general. And just, the only thing I do have to say is everybody did keep their grace in there. Just everybody let everybody speak. Everybody went in there, and even the protesters outside, they weren't, violent or anything like that. Everybody was actually kept their cool in there. One kind of weird lady actually, once they passed it, went kind of a little crazy, but it was funny because she was older, she was the one that was actually some homeless guy. She goes, I'm the last person to say this. Some homeless woman actually convinced them I was crazy. And I'm thinking to myself, well, that wasn't very hard to do.
I don't know if you met Frank.
Hey, Frank.
The two of you guys need to get together and talk
yes.
about what you're doing.
Absolutely.
If you're going to go to more of these cities.
I figured, just even if there's open session at the end, just speaking my mind in general.
No, we won't. That's what we want.
Flesh out what Jeff's talking about because I run the legislative
Yeah.
committee, and we having people. The goal is to have someone that represents all the municipalities,
Correct.
and we need someone in Greenville.
Oh yeah,
And
I'll definitely have no
if
problem
I
going
can
up
get
there.
your contacts and stuff. And
Absolutely, I got all
we
my
have
stuff
a meeting
there.
like once a month, and like each person, we have a person who's looking at the city of Simpsonville, or whatever. Come in.
I appreciate. No, I
just like the
definitely do,
report what you just did right there.
Because my mother, and here's the thing, like my mom, I talked to her, and she's obviously concerned about, especially when I go speak against a lot of people. She is concerned about. I can handle myself, but in general, she is concerned. She's like, well, why don't you move to another city? I'm like, I'm not gonna let people run me out of my city. I mean, that's the thing. I don't care what it is. I will not. Funny thing is, I talk to people just in general. Didn't even matter what everybody's on board for it. There's people, that work at local businesses. I know that they're afraid to go outside after dark because there's too many people out there that, it's a general thing. It wouldn't even be I don't even think it would be a partisan politic thing 20, 30 years ago. It just doesn't make any sense. It's just general safety. I mean, you want to walk around with your children. You want to walk around with there. Do you want, certain people around? And I would say no. But I do have to say also, since I've been complaining, the police have been doing a good job cleaning up Main Street. I've walked down there and just, I think it just takes sometimes people having more of a voice on it and just saying, hey, listen, these are things, and they get kind of nervous because they don't want the bad. I mean, that's our major hub there. Like all of our tourists go downtown Greenville. That's a major hub for the city. Let's say they stop going there. I mean, what's going to happen at that point. That's like where people go.
Yep.
So, you know,
And we see what happened in Washington D.C. this week with the two National Guards being shot and the one passing away. So
that made it one of the most difficult Thanksgivings in general. Just, I had to post something on Instagram. I had like a few days ago, I made, cute, funny video for Instagram I sent out for Thanksgiving. My first one was, dedication to fallen soldiers. And then that, and I said, it's difficult, but I'm also not going to let these terrorists get rid of our happiness on Thanksgiving.
that's what we need. Never surrender is one of our big hashtags. So we're going to get you guys together. I think he can help us out with the city of Greenville. I know we got to find somebody in Travelers Rest. Anything else? We're running over.
Just remember it's Monday.
Monday, Christmas party.
Yeah.
We're going to have fun.
One quick question came online. I think
Yes,
it's,
quick question.
Has anyone publicly asked Alan Wilson as AG when is he going to enforce Trump's executive order about election reform? I cannot recall the executive order number on this minute.
Listen, where there is a will, there is a way. That's my beef with all of this stuff. They will tell you all the reasons why they can't do it. They will not find a reason to do it. We know there's problems with the election system. Whether you think the election of 2020 was stolen or not, I personally do. I think they've been doing it for thousands of years. They've been stealing elections. They've been doing stuff. That doesn't mean we're crazy for sitting there saying it doesn't make any sense that they're putting up walls where you can't see what they're doing while they're counting the ballots and all that kind of stuff. I think, there's simple things you can do. I can figure out ways. I've been explaining the voting system. I'm like, well, I could cheat it there. I could cheat it there. Give me $1 billion and I could do it. I could easily do it. I could hire the right people and the technology people and find ways to cheat it. And guess what? It's worth $1 billion to pay somebody to do it when you got multiple trillions of budgets and you can funnel money to the people you want to funnel it to. It gets paid back. Yeah, all of that stuff. There's things that are very simple to do, but things like this, I don't know, or I recall that there was something about that particular executive order. But I mean, use that to go and make it happen. Just make it happen. Example, you can make it happen if you want to.
The state could have already, or the election commission could have taken that and said, okay, we're going to give the voter data out for free from now on.
Right.
And they could have said, that's the executive order. It's no longer charged. Now we can watch, whether there's weirdness in the data. Now I can see the counts of precincts of when they drastically change.
Right.
And then we'll reach out to you and say, why? How did this even happen? And if they try to correct the data, it's as bad as adding. So if any change happens that's dramatic, like of a 1,000 or 1,500 person precinct, 500 people just disappear or show up. The district.
Just Simpsonville, between the election and the runoff, 81 additional voters were qualified to vote in the runoff.
Wow.
I mean,
2 weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks. And that doesn't include the people who weren't eligible to vote or didn't, that types of the kids and the non-citizens and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I would like to go and see who those 81 people are and see if anything was fishy. Why does David Pascoe want to have a public corruptions unit and get volunteers that are empowered with the data and empowered with stuff to come back and tell them, hey, look at this? Why does he want to empower watchdog groups that are out there? Why does he want to empower the press? The press brings up some of this stuff on occasion and nobody does anything about it. We read about it and see it. We put something out, a guy sitting there stealing. Why is not somebody in the U.S. Attorney's office sitting there saying, hey, let's connect? And, we saw this. Don't tell me the U.S. Attorney or somebody in the U.S. Attorney's office or a secretary did not see the video that we put out, Fitz News put out, and everybody put out, and everybody's been talking about. Don't tell me it didn't rise to the level that somebody in their office saw it. They did, and they chose not to do anything, and there's a problem with that. That's what we're fighting, but we are winning. That's the exciting thing. That's something to be thankful for. Thanksgiving, we're winning that fight, and we're educating more people. Don't trust anonymous information, and do your own research. and don't trust sometimes people that you trust.
Yeah.
So question everything, because good people go bad, and we're going to get there. But Monday we're going to celebrate. It's going to be a lot of fun, and look forward to seeing everybody there. So we'll see you on Monday and back next Friday. Thank you.